to a church dance, and there was a family there that the father was presenting, the mother was doing Indian Sign Language. They were Navajos, and their 14-year-old son did a Navajo hoop dance. He was a hoop dancer, and I was blown away by this kid. Let me tell you, his name was Jacob, and later at the dance, he asked me to dance. I was like, oh. So that began my lifelong love affair with all things Native American. I got very into the culture and the stories. And a few weeks ago, I was in Phoenix doing the big eclipse event there, and this girl got up to the front and said, I'm Navajo, and I really appreciate how you have portrayed Native Americans. I said thank you. And she said, and I'm curious, is that Jacob Sanchez that you were writing about? I was like, oh. And so I didn't have time to recover, so she could totally tell that I was like, yeah, fine. Okay. Not at all horrifying. Okay, I can do 2 more questions. In the blue, right here. Yes, you. Mm-hmm. Okay, she is asking about Bella as a very weak idea of a feminist character. I have gotten that many times. Is Bella an anti-feminist character? There are 2 reasons why people ask that. One is that she's always having to be rescued. And my answer to that is I am not anti-feminine. I'm anti-human. If you were surrounded by superheroes all the time, she can't do the things that everyone around her can do. But Alice and Esme and Rosalie, they kick butt. They're off. So it's just human. Now, when it comes to her relationship with Edward and whether she is too involved in that, when I was writing the story, I did not have any interest in writing about a normal high school romance. Didn't do anything for me. I wanted to write about that elusive love that people want to believe exists, that I've never experienced myself. I love my husband. I had, my fair share of boyfriends in college that I was all romantically interested in, but not one of them would I have changed my life for. I'd be like, whatever, I was who I was. But I wanted to imagine the kind of love where you would change everything, where it would change your whole life. In New Moon, where Bella is completely wrecked by losing Edward, I was not trying to model that after the idea of a girl who gets broken up with in high school. In my head, this was someone who's been married for maybe 10 years and is widowed. That's what I was trying to portray, someone who honestly loves this person more than her own life. And I don't think there's anything wrong with that. I do think that it's very wrong to let your boyfriend dominate your life in a general normal relationship. I didn't want to write about a normal relationship. I wanted to write about something that transcended that. And people tend to miss the fact that Edward is more wrecked than Bella is. His life takes a much worse turn than hers does, and he can't live without her in much more pathetic ways than Bella. So I think it's pretty even, and I really don't feel that I've written an anti-feminist story, but of course, everybody takes from it what they will, and reader response is a really valid way of looking at novels. But that's the way I personally see it. Okay. All right, it's the very last question. I want to do this one over here with the curly hair because they've all been waiting so long. If Jacob had imprinted on Bella, yes, it wouldn't have affected Bella's feelings for Edward. She still would have her freedom. Jacob just wouldn't have his, and he would have had no hope of ever moving on. And he would have to want for her to have what was best for her, so he would have to step out of the way. In fact, he would have been less confrontive if he had imprinted on her, because he wouldn't have been able to deny what she wanted. At the same time, he knows full well how she feels about him. He knows much better than she does, because she's so, blinders all the time. So I don't think that I know people get angry with Jacob, but to me, I can just sense this desperation of this poor kid, and he can see it. He looks at her and he knows that she loves him. He can't see the Edward, that's harder for him, but he knows that she's lying to herself, and all he just wants is for her to see that. And in the end, he wouldn't do anything differently, not one thing. He gets his heart broken, oh yeah. But he knows he tried, and he did everything he could, and that's what's important to him. So, he's okay with how he's not happy, but he did what he wanted to do. So, you're very welcome. Okay, thank you guys. I gotta say, really, this has been an excellent Q&A, one of the coolest I've done, and I really appreciate that. And thank you so much for coming out tonight.
this is how the signing is going to work. And for those folks upstairs, we will get you. Don't worry, it's going to go by very fast. First and foremost, no post photography. You get your book signed, make sure you're